Welcome to Forensic Fixation Friday, where I tell you one true crime case that was solved using forensic science, all while doing, that's right, my makeup. Except for today, because we're gonna be doing my nails. I cannot bear to be on camera doing my makeup with my nails being jacked up. So obviously had to do my nails first. So I thought, why not go ahead and do it in a video for you guys, huh? I don't know. It's something different. I thought I'd switch it up for you guys. Next week, I will have a makeup look for you. So today's video will be featuring the Beetles Gel Nail Poly Nail Gel Kit. Did I say that right? Yeah, it's an Amazon brand, so y'all know how Amazon is with their verbiage on their packaging. It'd be all off. All the other items I'm using in this video will be linked in the description below. Please read the disclaimer. I am not a professional at anything I am doing here in this video, and that will become evident the more the video goes on. I'm just the average girl at home like you, doing my jacked up nails and talking about true crime. So if that's something that interests you, then go ahead and click the subscribe button. Quick reminder, the comment section is a privilege. Don't, you guys already know what I'm gonna say, fuck it up. Okay, and let's get into today's case. This is gonna be a little bit awkward. I'm gonna go ahead and try to make me smaller here. Yeah, there we go. I think that works. Now, this all takes place in Atherton, California, right outside San Francisco in 1984, where a woman named Helena Greenwood lived with her husband, Roger. Now, they had recently moved to California. Helena was born and raised in England. She was considered a very talented DNA scientist, earning her doctorate in chemical pathology. Friends and family members described her as very, very intelligent, very charming. Her professors often described her as very determined and focused. They just thought she was a really remarkable young woman, which clearly she was. I am sweating, you guys, because this is hard. This is harder than I thought. She was very much into the biotech industry. Now, it wasn't just her intelligence that kind of made her as good as she was. She was also very business savvy. Like, she knew the business. She knew that you could not just, oh, I forgot. I have to put, what am I doing? Sorry about that. This is not what I want to be doing. Actually, I need to put the foundation coat on. Now, because she was so intelligent as well as a very good businesswoman, this made her highly sought after in the biotech industry in the late 70s and early 80s. She just had a way with people. She knew how to sell a product. She knew that if there was a need for something, that it would sell. So that combined with her intelligence just made her, it made her a force to be reckoned with, to say the least. Helena, she joined this company that specialized in medical diagnostics, and she was so good, you guys, that she rose in ranks pretty quickly. I mean, she went from just like, you know, your regular biotech engineer. I don't even know what they're called. I'm making all this shit up as I'm telling you guys, but she became the director of international marketing. Like, this girl, she was bad. She was a bad bitch. Oh, I said bitch, so I guess I could say ass too. Wow, girl. Wow. I can't even tie my shoes sometimes. I mean, Helena and Roger were a very loving couple. They were very much the cute couple in love. They did everything together, at least as much as they possibly could. They enjoyed sailing and fixing up on their new starter home. Oh no, Lucy, baby. Lucy is here, you guys. But I can't use my hands to get her to show you guys because obviously I have gel all over them, so. You want to put your little paws in to show people that you're here? Say, hi, I'm here. I'm here and right here. Anyway, so yeah, so Helena's husband was an architect, and on April 7th, 1984, he had gone out on a business trip. I think he was out on business, some sort of business meeting or something, but he was out of town, and Helena was home alone by herself. Okay, this is where things are gonna get really creepy. So if you live alone, lock your doors, okay? Lock your doors, girl, lock your doors. So it was around 11:20 p.m. at night, and Helena was obviously in bed sleeping, as we all should be right now, but we're probably not. Some of you are out partying and some of you are up watching me for whatever reason, but I appreciate you. Thank you. So yeah, it was around 11:20 and Helena was sleeping in her bed when a man broke into her home. He got in through the kitchen window. Helena woke up to this man standing in her bedroom over her bed wearing it was a really tall man too. He was wearing a hoodie and a face disguise. Everything was covered except for his eyes, which Helena saw. So obviously terrified, Helena jumps up. She tries to defend herself, but this man, he is not having it. It's kind of too late. He gets a hold of Helena. He overpowers Helena and he sexually assaults her before running off into the night. So this man gets away and Helena calls the police, and she also calls a close friend to come and take her to the hospital. Ooh, I need to add more here. I hope I'm doing this right. Is this okay? I don't even know. So yeah, so Helena calls a close friend to take her into the hospital. Jesus fucking Christ. This is... I did not know what I was getting myself into. This is entirely... I'm out of my league here. I've seen nail techs like pat the nail. Now the friend that came to pick up Helena noticed something very odd while waiting for her outside. They noticed a teapot on the ground outside of the kitchen window. Like, what was this fool doing? Having tea out there or something? Like, and so the friend told Helena, like, hey, you know, I noticed that there's a teapot on the ground outside of the kitchen window. Now, Helena was confused because she left the teapot on the windowsill. So she told her friend, like, hey, that teapot should have been on the windowsill because that's where I left it last. And this is how they found out that the intruder had climbed in through the window. Because they took note of this, police were able to lift fingerprints from that teapot when they arrived. Thank God. Police did run those prints, but it didn't match anyone in their database at that time. I hope this is gonna be okay for tonight. I actually have like somewhere to go tonight. I have a date. So yeah, this is gonna be interesting if my nails turn out jacked. I feel like I'm gonna have to finish this video off with a voiceover. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this video. Helena told police that she didn't get a really good look at the guy because obviously he was wearing that hoodie that was pulled all the way up over his face and only his eyes were showing. She said the skin that she was able to see appeared to be either a Hispanic man or a mixed guy, but someone with like an olivey skin tone. Yeah, that was her guess. So thanks to her friend for picking up on that teapot that was sitting outside the window, because police actually initially missed that when they came and they did a search of the house and had enough sense to call the police and also to not touch the evidence and not put her own fingerprints on it, like not contaminate the evidence. So I'm actually pretty proud of her friend. I'm like, kudos, girl, hats off to you. I would give you like a little clap, but obviously you can see we're doing stuff here with my hands. Thank you. I know the nail techs out there right now watching this are freaking out. Like, what in the God's green earth is that girl doing? So the case would go unsolved for about a year until a man was arrested right outside Belmont, California for indecent exposure. He was exposing himself to a young 12-year-old girl out in front of an apartment building in Belmont, California. Like, couldn't find anybody your own age, sir? I mean, come on. Now, this guy's name was David Paul Fridiani. And you guys, I've seen the pictures. He's actually kind of cute. But now that I know he's a creepo, he doesn't look as attractive. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It really bothers me when the perpetrators are attractive. I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments down below what you guys think and how you feel about it. Does it matter to you if they're attractive or not? I don't know. But I just find it extremely disturbing whenever there's like someone that I'm attracted to. It's disgusting. So yeah, this guy's actually pretty good looking. And he was out in front of these apartment buildings showing little 12-year-old girls his wee-wee. Like in the middle of Belmont, California, somewhere. What a creepy weirdo. That's all I can say about that. Now, Belmont was only 40 minutes away from Helena's house. So, I mean, about an hour. I wouldn't say it's like super close, but relatively easily to get to. Now, this Freddie guy, he was a 42-year-old accountant with no prior arrest or criminal background or criminal history or anything like that. He was just, he's just an accountant, dude. So the police was not playing. They were like, okay, this dude looked relatively similar to the man that Helena described. So they decided to pull him in for questioning, and they took his prints and they compared it to the prints that they found on the teapot. And what do you know? They matched. Buddy boy, they matched him. So police bring him in. They go through their whole spiel of reading him his rights. And one of the first questions they ask is like, were you in Mrs. Greenwood's home? Do you know her? Did you sexually assault her? Like, they just ask him right out, did you do the creepy creepo stuff, And of course he denies it. Like, what person's gonna admit to doing something like that? I don't know what excuse he gave. He probably told them like, no, dude, like, I'm more into showing little 12-year-old girls my wee-wee outside of, California apartment buildings. I have no freaking clue. But this dude was like, obviously he's not going to admit to it. So then police was like, that's funny because we have your fingerprints on the tea kettle that was at Mrs. Greenwood's home. So how did your fingerprints get there if you weren't there? Because he initially said like, no, I never did that. I don't know Mrs. Greenwood. Like, what are you talking about? They started to see him perspire. He started, blushing, and they could see him like, fidgeting and him breathing really hard. And he was just like, as though he was out of breath and winded. Obviously, he was starting to freak out and have a fucking panic attack. Like, good, I'm glad. And he says, I was really drunk when I did those things. As if that alleviates what he did. Like, it's okay because I was really drunk. I didn't mean to do them. Like, I'm not a bad guy. Dude, you expose yourself to little girls. You expose your little things. Like, oh my goodness, dude. You're terrible. At this point, he starts to catch on to police, and he's like, I'm not saying anything else. I don't want to speak anymore until I get my lawyer. At that point, they just put him in a lineup and asked her if she could identify him. Unfortunately, Helena could not identify him because obviously he was in a disguise and covering his entire face. So that was a huge problem. However, police still had those fingerprints that were found on the teapot, remember? They were pretty confident that with his fingerprints on that teapot alone, that this could help them get a conviction and put this weirdo freak away. However, when it went to trial, they were kind of relying on Helena's testimony. But Helena never made it to trial. In the meantime, while Helena was waiting for everything to go to trial, her and her husband did move from out of San Francisco. They moved to San Diego from San Francisco because they were like, nah, we're not going to stay here. And I don't blame them, honestly. I would not stay in the same house after something like that happened. I would move as well. And Helena took a new job with this biomedical research group. This biomedical research firm was called GenPro. This group was looking for ways to diagnose disease through DNA research, which is pretty freaking cool. So this is like the beginning stages, you guys. Remember, we're in the 80s here, so this is the beginning stages of like DNA research and all of this type of stuff coming up. So this is pretty cool because she was actually a part of that, like the part of the developments into DNA research. Now, they really helped speed things up in the industry as far as like DNA researching and getting results faster. So things that would take normally them a months or weeks, even days, was now taking them hours and minutes. So they sped up the processing pretty fast. One day, Helena was on the phone making last minute plans for a meeting that she was supposed to have. It was an important business meeting. And friends and family members say that Helena was always on time for work, like she would never miss a day's work. And she was scheduled to come in to work at 9 a.m. that morning. However, she never showed up. This was really, really strange that she hadn't shown up to work and that she hadn't called anyone or told them anything. Not even her business or research partners. She didn't call them or say anything to them. Now it's time to go into the look that I'm going to be doing for my nails. So I'm going to do what I'd like to call a strawberry milk design. And I don't know why, but recently I've been really into like these weird blob nail designs as well as like Japanese anime type designs. So anyway, back to the story. When Helena didn't show up to work, her co-workers and friends started to, they started to call her when they couldn't get in contact with her. Concerned, Helena's co-workers called her husband at work, and he immediately rushed home because he knew as well that this was not like her at all. And when he got there, so at first he found that the front gate was locked, which was unusual for them, but I guess it was locked. And so he was able to somehow climb up and peer over the gate. And that is when he saw Helena's lifeless body laying in the yard. So Roger, Helena's husband, was so in shock that he didn't even call the police at first. Initially, he contacted Helena's place of work, which was GenPro. I mean, that is just how upset and dismantled he was by what was going on. He didn't even know who to call. When police showed up, they thought that the crime scene looked staged. There was items laying around, like spilled from Helena's purse, but no money was taken. No credit cards were taken. So it was as if it was staged as a robbery, but nothing was taken. I don't understand these dumb criminals. Like, how are you going to try to stage a crime scene Hi, I'm sorry. I'm so angry I can't even speak. How are you going to try to stage a robbery and not take anything, dude? Like, does that make sense? That makes zero sense to me. Like, So anyway, all of Helena's stuff was thrown around on the ground, but like I said, nothing had been taken. Police weren't able to find any other evidence to suggest who the killer was. There was no fingerprints there, so they felt that obviously the perpetrator had probably worn gloves. When they searched the yard, they did find a couple of Helena's fingernails. They had been torn off, which suggested that she had violently fought for her life till the end. She's probably scratching the hell out of him trying to get away. So hard that her fingernails broke off, dude. That's a crime all in itself, just to have my fingernails get broken off. So now at the autopsy, the medical examiner noticed something in Helena's eyes called petechial hemorrhages, which was an indication that she had been strangled. They didn't find any signs of a sexual assault. However, they did find something very telling underneath Helena's fingernails. They found what appeared to be traces of blood. But police had a huge setback because none of that blood was large enough to do any sort of testing with. The samples were too small. The first person that was on their list that they started to look at, which we all know is the significant other, which would have been Roger, her husband. And Roger wasn't too pleased about this. He was obviously very irritated because he was trying to find his wife's killer, and he really didn't appreciate the police wasting their time and his time as well, but also just their time questioning him when they could have been out there searching for the killer. And when they asked him where he was at the time of Helena's murder, he told them that he had gone to work at 8 a.m. So according to Roger, he went into work at 8 a.m. and Helena was home. She actually was having a conversation on the phone to around about 9 a.m. in the morning. When police questioned neighbors, a man did come forward and say that he had heard a cry that sounded like a human cry. He heard this around the same time that Helena had supposedly been sexually assaulted. So this was lining up with what police thought, but because Roger was about 40 minutes away from Helena at this time, he was eliminated. Roger wasn't effing around. He wasn't about to wait for police to figure this whole thing out, and he went straight to the district's attorney that was in San Francisco where his wife's case was to be held. And he told him, hey, my wife, she was supposed to testify in her own sexual assault case, and now she's been murdered. Now, this David Paul Fridiani, the guy that was accused of her sexual assault, he was actually out on bail during this time. So, suspect number one, hello. I don't know why we went after the husband. I do know why, because that's just the protocol, but geez. Now, obviously, this guy would be the number one prime suspect. He clearly has a motive for doing this, and he has an opportunity. However, he is telling police that he wasn't anywhere near her when this all occurred, that he was in San Francisco, which would have been about 500 miles away from, where the murder had taken place. I don't believe a damn thing this man is saying, and I don't know why police thought they could either, because Helena was now dead, they were trying to get these sexual assault charges dropped against this guy, against David. But the district attorney was not having that. He was not about to drop these charges, but it would have been really hard for him to get a conviction when the prime witness is dead. So this was a huge problem. Now, even though they did not have Helena to testify, they still had his fingerprints that was on that teapot, as well as DNA evidence that they found, like semen evidence that they found in the bedroom on some of the bedding. So they were really trying to work it and nail this guy with all that they had. So the first thing that they had to prove was that what they found was semen. Then they had to prove that it was from a type O secretor. That's what they called it, which they were able to do. And that the PMG, or not PMG, the PGM, and that the PGM type was of +1. I bet you guys get a real kick out of seeing me fuck up every single week. I would too if I was y'all, honestly. It's pretty funny. They had to prove that all this stuff matched David's DNA profile. But remember, you guys, this was all happening back in the 80s, in the year 1985. So DNA testing was still relatively new and just coming about. There wasn't really any really significant discoveries as far as that goes. So now all of the evidence that they found did match Fridiani's ABO type. When faced with all of this evidence on him, at the last minute, Fridiani actually pleaded no contest to the assault. Just because he was found guilty of Helena's assault did not make him guilty of her murder. Now, Relying on Helena's pre-trial testimony, the sexual assault and robbery case moved forward, and David was sentenced to 6 years in prison and served just 3 before getting out and moving back to the Bay Area. I mean, they let this MFer out. I cannot believe it. Not only did he return back to the Bay Area, but it seemed as though nothing had really changed in his life. He just kind of resumed his regular daily life as an accountant and, just indecent exposure to 12-year-olds, but that's about it. Nothing too crazy, I guess. Are you kidding me, dude? Now, keep in mind, Helena was murdered 3 months before she was to go on trial. I mean, that ain't a coincidence, y'all. Come on. Helena's case was relegated to the San Diego Police Department. That is where it's set for 14 years. It became a cold case file until in 1999, the San Diego Police Department reopened 300 cold cases, hoping that the new scientific evidence could help identify the perpetrator. So by this time, it's 1999. DNA advanced testing is a lot more further along now. Most notable was the advancement for the PCR method. Now, this method allowed scientists to replicate a microscopic DNA sample to a usable size. Now, you guys remember those skin samples that was found underneath Helena's fingernails back in 1985? Well, they were now definitively shown to be a match to David Fridiani. It was pretty ironic because who knew that Helena's DNA research would actually solve her case in the future? It was as if she was speaking from the grave, but even before that, it was as if she had been working to solve her own murder all along. It's crazy. A lot of times we do things and we pick certain careers and, passions, not knowing how it will serve us in the future or why we do it, but we're obsessed about it. And Helena was just like that. She was a DNA scientist to the core. Now, I forgot to say this, but after Helena's files were relegated to the San Diego Police Department, the 7 years to come after that, Helena's parents would pass away. Her husband, Roger, developed cancer and also ended up passing away, so he would never get to see the justice that had occurred. The good news is, though, GenProbe, the company that Helena was working for, continued her work, and they were looking for advancements in DNA technology. So police found an additional piece of information that wasn't originally really looked at in Helena's file. They found that David Fridiani had been in Southern California and was involved in a minor accident on the highway just 7 days prior to Helena's death. So this accident he had gotten into was not that far from Helena's home, and investigators just knew, what the hell was he doing out there? He was obviously waiting for trial in this case, okay? And then suddenly she ends up dead and he's released around the same time. So prosecutors believe that Fridiani murdered Helena in the chances that this would free him from the sexual assault case. But instead, he ended up getting put in jail for sexual assault as well as murder. What a dumbass. They believe he drove 500 miles from his home in San Francisco to Helena's home in San Diego, where he stalked Helena and Roger to find out what the couple's daily routines were and habits so he would know their whereabouts before planning his attack. But he made just one mistake, and that was getting into an accident a few days before the murder, putting him in San Diego right before the crime. There was another additional piece of evidence that I failed to mention earlier, which was they did find blood on Helena's stocking as well. Police went to the home of Fridiani to arrest him. He was actually coming out of his house when police grabbed him and placed him under arrest. And I don't know why, but he was super surprised. They said that he looked so surprised, like he did not understand what was going on. He truly believed that he had gotten away with this. Okay, you guys, so my Japanese anime inspired strawberry milk nails are complete. Now it's time to finish up this case. Thanks to forensic science and some good police work, David Paul Fridiani was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. What did you guys think about this case? Oh my God, you guys, I am seriously obsessed with my nails. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you like videos like these, I'll leave them posted on the screen somewhere right here or right here. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Please share because it really helps me out. And I'll see you guys next week with another episode. Bye.